This food truck fire safety video is meant to show you some of the safety measures currently being used in California. While some of these standards may be a little stricter than you're used to, we'd like to show you the very highest in standards they currently use when building trucks.
Hi, I'm Matt Geller. This is Richard Gomez of AA Cater Truck. We're going to be talking about fire safety in food trucks and what you should be looking for when you're permitting a food truck, including propane, Ansel fire systems, fire extinguishers, chassis, tires, gross vehicle weight, floors, and everything relevant to fire safety in the food truck industry.
Let me start it up.
You're going to start this thing up?
Yeah.
All right. It's a big Ford chassis. What's the model on this?
It's an F59. It's a V10.
It's important to know what you're dealing with under every food truck and how the whole system of the truck promotes fire safety. Here at AA, they like to mount propane in a very safe spot, and I'll let Richard explain the ins and outs of propane mounting.
We have been mounting our tanks in between the wheels. The reason for that is you eliminate the chances of having a rear impact, or when you're driving out of a steep driveway, for the tank to bottom out. This is the perfect area. It's away from your clients. So if somebody's smoking on the other side, but they're not supposed to, but if they are, this is away from the service area. Second thing is, the muffler canister is right on the other side. It's a good place, a good distance in between each other. And even when you have the tailpipe that is protruding to the outside, you want to have some kind of a shield to prevent any kind of heat to transfer back into your tank.
One of the issues we've seen across the country is people ignoring the gross vehicle weight, what the chassis can hold safely. When you go over the gross vehicle weight, real bad stuff can happen.
So one of the things when they are certifying for the gross vehicle weight rating, they're checking for the brake capacities. You want this vehicle to be able to brake properly. Second thing is the tires. The tires are rated for the amount of weight that the vehicle can carry, and the leaf springs.
So by law, are they required to have
By law,
that?
you are required to post your GVWR.
We make sure and talk about gross vehicle weight because while it's not directly related to fire safety, it is indirectly related to fire safety. Every one of these food trucks, when full of propane, could do a lot of damage. If the builder didn't even care enough to make sure the gross vehicle weight was proper, chances are there's going to be a lot of other big issues. Every food truck chassis takes into account weight distribution. In a standard food truck, all the weight ends up being on the edges. So the equipment's going to be here, the equipment's going to be over there, and in the middle, that's where people are walking around. Now the problem with a food truck that gets converted from a delivery truck is those trucks were built to have even weight distribution. Think a UPS truck, boxes across. And when they become food trucks, if the floor isn't reinforced properly, what we start to see is those floors bend, and it creates a problem for the structural integrity of the truck. Now, depending on where the propane tank is, that structural integrity issue could be a fire safety issue. So it's important when you're looking over a truck for a permit that you take a look and see if the propane lines are going to be disrupted by a lack of structural integrity.
What some manufacturers are doing is they're using wood as a separation between the chassis and the body. So that wood that you're washing every day gets penetrated with water, you'll start to decompose, and then it's going to give, and that's when you have, trucks just siding out.
So when you're building for other municipalities throughout the United States and really throughout the world, do you always make sure that you're following the local regulations?
That's correct. When a customer comes in from a different state or a different municipality, even a different country, we ask them to reach out to their local enforcement agency and try to get a package. We turn around and read that package, interpret the package, and then reach out to that municipality. We submit a plan to them, and we make sure that they're going to be okay when we're submitting. This way, you're not surprised when you take your truck for inspection, and all of a sudden you got a truck that's completely built wrong, right?
Yeah, right. So we're going to be taking a look at a chassis that just got in a box.
Yeah. In order to paint the truck completely and seal it, we build the body separated from the chassis.
So do you put the propane in before or after you've put the body on?
After.
So that way you can properly run the lines and make sure everything's sealed correctly.
Correct. We mount the floor of the truck directly to the chassis, and then we use that structure to be able to mount our tanks under there.
Oh, I understand.
The chassis is manufactured so it has a swivel. So as you're driving, your suspension is taking some of that swivel, and you don't want that friction to be transferred back to your tank. So that's why you want your tank to be able to mount rigidly to the floor.
Gotcha.
But at the same time, you want to be able to protect it so it's not going to dangle loose.
Right. The thing that a lot of people don't think about on a truck is just all the vibration. How do you deal with pumping propane from a tank to all your equipment? Because the truck's moving like this.
Right, or like this, right?
Right.
You have your suspension.
But you just have one pipe coming all the way across.
We break it by using a flexible connection right at the center of the wheelbase. If you have your torsion of this pipe, it allows the pipes to move anywhere and allows the back of the pipe to move anywhere, and that flexible connection allows that movement.
Even though it moves around a lot, things aren't breaking, snapping, cutting.
We undercoat the pipes to prevent water or snow.
That undercoat they use in wintry places like Minnesota to protect against salt and water damage. It's great. So here we've got the propane tank. This is an underbelly tank. How big are these?
This is a bigger truck, so this tank is 40 gallons. It's mounted directly to the floor of the kitchen. It's not supposed to have any movement. Another thing that you want to have is the regulator has to be mounted directly to the tank. Right after you come out of your propane regulator, you have your fire suppression shutoff valve. You put it right before it gets to the actual feeding of propane into the equipment. That's one of the things that you want to do when you have a fire, eliminate the fuel. And then the second thing that you want to do is to kill all the oxygen out, and that's what the Ansel solution does. The tank itself has some gadgets so you don't overfill it. You have to know that propane tanks, max fuel is 3/4. After 3/4, the tank will start to freeze up, and if you continue to pressurize it and the gadget's not working, then you could blow up the tank. So it's definitely dangerous, stuff that people should know.
Education's a big part of this. So a propane tank like this, the operator doesn't have to turn this on and off.
Right, that's one of the advantages of having an auxiliary fill is so that the customer doesn't have to come in and twist fittings and then twisting them back on, which could be another place where you could have a leak. In California, the propane station is usually a person that's been trained, but as you get across the United States, you should be trained yourself.
How long will this propane tank last?
The tanks are supposed to be recertified every 10 years.
Okay. So most commissaries have their own propane station. Most trucks run on propane. So ensuring that it's very well marked, no smoking, and is protected from vehicles running into it. That propane station is completely protected, even if a food truck hit that going 30 miles an hour. And so we want that to be one of the things that fire departments look at throughout the nation as kind of a standard operating procedure. These are important for every commissary to have, but it's also important that they remain protected. So a great thing to see once you see where the propane is below the truck. It's good to see how it comes in to all of your appliances. We've got the grill top here with the propane running directly in.
Yeah, so one of the things you want to do is you want to make sure the lines are protected by a grommet.
So this grommet is going to protect against a lot of the driving vibration?
Yes. But the main thing, you want to make sure that this is fixed, this is tied up at least every 12 inches. Your mainline steel Schedule 80, so it's a very thick pipe, and then we'll feed it right into a main valve. This will eliminate any kind of propane flowing into the equipment when you're not using it. You could open that up, then you have a safety valve. The safety valve is controlled by your thermocouple. If your thermocouple senses the pilot is not on, it will not allow propane to flow.
This is something you guys do and not a lot of other people do.
Yeah, this is one of the things you will see on water heaters that are mounted outdoor. So, you know, if you get a whoosh of wind and blows your pilot off, you don't want that gas to continue to flow and you're not seeing it, you're not smelling it, and it could catch fire.
What would they normally see, let's say in Texas or Florida?
Normally it's just a valve at the tank. So they just have lines coming in directly into the equipment. These valves will start to open up as you're driving with your bouncing and vibration. You can imagine having the propane just continue to flow as you're driving. Right. That propane will touch a pilot and then you will light up. This particular setup, we have what we use in restaurants, which is just an open burner and a char broiler. And normally they just connect it from a main valve, goes directly into your burner. But even in these units, we still installed a safety control. As you're driving, you don't want this valve to open and then you have a full flame going right here.
Right. Is this coming from directly underneath the cab?
You run your propane manifold.
So it's under the floor. It's not in the cab at all.
It's underneath by the chassis. Right, so it's not enclosed in the cabinetry, because if they start leaking, there's no way for you to have access to fixing them.
So you could shut this whole thing down and still use this?
Yeah.
Then you can shut that down and still use this?
Yes. So everything will be independent. Each equipment has its own safety valve and it's completely plumbed separately. You don't want to have any teasing here. When you have T's and different connections inside of your truck, then you have more chances of a pipe leaking. You want to be as straight as possible. You know, sometimes it's difficult because you have to go around drawers and so forth, but you want to have a solid pipe coming from in and then going into the actual fitting of the equipment.
Is everything you guys do easily accessible for emergency shutoff?
Right. You want the person operating the kitchen to be able to use it. I've seen a lot of these valves put on the back of the equipment, which people are never
Yeah, I've seen that
use.
where you have to emergency shut off from
And
the
you
back.
can imagine if the thing is just blazing hot, nobody's going to stick their hand back there. All your safety features are very suitable for water because you got mechanical parts in there. So if you get water on these on the controls, then they'll start to harden up. You want to make sure that you enclose them, and then you have a door. And then you have instructions, so people can follow instructions and know how to turn on an equipment.
Right.
Right, so if the fire department comes out, they know exactly what they're looking at, how to shut stuff off.
One of the most important safety features on any truck is the Ansell fire system. Now, a lot of the old trucks only have a K-class or a B-class, hopefully both, fire extinguishers. But the newer trucks now have Ansell. How long have you guys been doing Ansell here at
In 2001, California started pushing for us to install the Ansell system. We have been installing Ansell systems on every truck since then. Doesn't matter where they're going.
Great. So, I mean, the Ansell system is similar to an Ansell system you would see in a restaurant.
Yeah, it's exactly the same and the same principles apply. So if you have a fryer, you want to have a 3N nozzle. It pretty much dictates the amount of chemical that is going to go into this, and it's rated that it's going to be able to turn a grease fire off.
So any grease fire that comes out of this system, that nozzle is specially designed for that.
Right. You can activate manually, and it also have fusible links. So if the system gets overheated or you forget to turn something off, something catches fire, the fusible link will melt, and it will activate the system.
So where's the manual Ansell turn on?
It's always on the opposite side of the equipment and right by an exit. So as you're walking out of the truck, you can turn around and just pull it, then continue to exit the truck. And so you have your chemical solution. We make sure that we fasten this tank. As you're driving, you don't want to agitate the tank. It has a burst disc right at the top. And with the agitation, you could agitate it and burst the disc.
So this looks like a pretty complicated thing. I mean, how often does this have to get looked at?
Every 6 months.
A certified Ansell
Certified
inspector?
professional roller. Right.
So they have to come in and say your Ansell's still safe and okay for use.
Yeah, in some states we're actually seeing some of the customers that are taking this balloon out, you know.
So what is it? Can you explain the balloon?
When the system is not installed properly, you will have this agitate and burst the disc and then have the system fire itself.
So when you say burst a disc, they're actually bursting the thing that's blocking the chemical from coming out?
Correct.
And so it just moves around and blows up?
Blows up and it will activate and it'll start siphoning liquid over to your flow.
Gotcha.
So some of the operators are actually taking this stuff out, deactivating the system and then activating the system again. They're not supposed to be doing that.
Yeah, because they're not certified.
They're not as certified. They don't do something right, and when you best needs the system might not activate.
But even for you, once you're all done setting this up, the Ansell professional is still the one that's got to come out and certify that you did it right.
Right, so even after us installing it, we still get a third-party certified bonded inspection that comes in and certifies the installation is done proper, and it'll bond it for 6 months, right? And then after that 6 months, it's up to the customer to go out and get it recertified again.
I understand. Now, one thing that we see here is this thing. I consider to be one of the most important things for safety on a food truck, because sometimes stuff might happen. So there might be an engine explosion or engine fire. This allows at least people to get out, at least have an opportunity to escape as best they can.
Secondary emergency exit is always a plus. We're doing it for every truck, and people like to see it. Not a lot of the states are enforcing it, but when they see it, they're not opposed to it, and they're actually accepting it.
So here we have the box. They've taken the chassis, they've put a box on it, but before they put any kitchen equipment in it, this is what it looks like. You can see that this whole structure they've built to put on the chassis. It helps with rigidity, and it helps create the frame that they're going to mount a lot of the things to it, like a propane tank and propane lines.
The structure is reinforced with cross members. You can see how the truck moves together as a one unit.
One of the first things you can see is a generator compartment. Now the great thing about this is this alleviates the need to put a generator right on the sidewalk and plug in, creating more noise and more hazard from a public safety standpoint.
The generator compartment is completely sealed all around. You want to eliminate fumes from coming in. Can you imagine the CO2, carbon monoxide? coming in and poisoning people, you know?
Right.
Want to
So
be able
this
to
is,
kill that too.
how big of a generator will this hold?
This is going to have a 20 kilowatt generator,
Right.
a diesel generator. And it's going to be, the truck is going to be completely self-contained.
So this diesel generator, where is the exhaust going to come out of?
The exhaust is going to come out to the driver's side.
Are you going to have a place to fuel the diesel generator from the outside?
The generator is plugged into the tank of the truck. As long as you have fuel on your tank.
I
yeah,
see.
Yeah, so you don't have to fill it up directly into the generator.
Could you do the same setup with a gas generator in a gas truck?
We don't like to use gas engine on generators because they run very hot.
Okay. And the heat can bleed into the cab and also dangerous?
You have to completely enclose the generator. So you have a gas generator completely enclosed.
And very hot.
And very hot.
And that could be a fire safety issue.
Not only fire hazard, but it also wears out the generator a lot quicker.
Oh, because it can't dissipate heat.
Right.
Gotcha. So the diesel generator is actually pulling diesel fuel from the tank of the truck.
Right.
Great. So as long as you keep your tank full, you're fine.
You're fine. Correct. And it avoids you from having to go and put in, fuel right on top of the generator. It's a very hot generator, and you catch another fire.
Obviously, all food trucks use generators, but a lot of times you see generators just kind of sitting on the street. How's this work?
You want to make sure that you pick the right generator. You want to make sure that it's certified to be mounted in a truck.
Right.
If you pick the wrong generator, then you can have a fire hazard right under your truck. All the ventilation is done through the bottom.
Is this the emergency shutoff valve as well?
Right, so this is just the main valve. If you wanted to repair the generator, you want to be able to kill the flow of propane going into the generator. Pretty much just switch the valve off. The generator is designed so that you can maintain it where it is. You pull the cover out to be able to drain your oil out. You have your filter on the bottom. You have your spark plugs and your air filter.
Something I've seen has been electrical fires. I mean, why does that happen?
Yeah, the problem is that people are using extension cords instead of actually using the right conduits. The type of conduit that we use from here to the box is a waterproof sealed conduit. First thing you want to ask a manufacturer is is your installations done by code, meaning the National Electrical Code or depending what you're looking at. But that is a good way to start the conversation. And once you do have, once they answer that question, then you can say, well, who bet this? Who was a third-party, company that came out and said that it was installed, to code?
Great. I think as the fire conversation and fire safety goes on, I think we spend a lot of time thinking about propane. But there are a lot of other issues that can go wrong on a truck. Electrical, where the gas tank is mounted, is it an old truck that hasn't been serviced in a long time? And so all these things have to be taken into account when a fire department is looking over a truck.
All right.
Thanks for watching this video. We'd like to thank AA Cater Truck for helping to show you some of the food truck fire safety features that they currently use when building trucks. If you'd like to get more information from the National Food Truck Association, please visit us at nationalfoodtrucks.org.